All right, what's good? What's good, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing amazing. We are back for another week in the markets, man. Super excited, super grateful to be here with you guys for the last week of August as we step into almost a brand new month. But yeah, man, we back. So we got a couple of you guys tapped in. I see Tony in the building, Willie, Anna, T Quinn, Malone, King Sam. What's good? Ooh, 1 a.m. Damn, for real. That's dedication. Appreciate being here. All right, guys. So again, welcome. If you guys are in a Koschex, you guys know the deal. If you guys are somebody who just kind of follows my content but isn't really part of the private mentorship, what we're gonna be doing here right now is basically just doing a market outlook where we prepare for the week. Obviously, for even me myself, this is a habit that for me is like non-negotiable. I think that you don't want to start your week off on your heels. I think you want to get in front of price action. You want to get in front of the charts and just kind of, have a game plan for, what type of positions you're looking to take next and whatnot. So yeah, that's the point of these calls is just kind of get everybody prepared, pretty much for trading NAS though. So, back in the day, we used to look at a couple different markets, and I don't mind reviewing some markets for some of you guys. But for the most part, we've been pretty much just trading NAS as far as day trading goes, for quite some time with our signature strategy that I do teach um, in Akashex. So for the most part, just always kind of breaking down what I see for NAS is the main priority heading into the brand new week. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. I know I've been doing these calls also in general more early in the afternoon. I used to do it in the evenings even before that, like way back, and I think I like doing it at this time better, to be honest. Just because the market is now actually open and we can actually see some movement out the gate, which is always great, instead of just seeing like a stuck market. Now, for those that are in a Koshex, you know that we had a sell towards the end of day on Friday for NAS 100, that, started hitting some of our targets. We've kind of, almost returned back to our entry, and then the market ended up closing. So for the most part, that sell idea or that sell bias is still very much the main focus for me personally. So yeah, I mean, nothing else really different compared to, well, where we left off on Friday. So we're getting a nice, continuation of that with this last 5 minute candle currently printing right now, which is good. Obviously what we don't want to do is see price start to break and close above these two previous highs. Our entry was very solid as far as the last settler goes. We had entries at around 570, 23, 570. So this is what the last trade actually looked like before the market ended up closing. So we ran a little bit over a 2R. So we went about 2.5, and then we kind of got again close to entry, and then we ended up respecting that and then just kind of sitting around for the rest of the session. My final profit targets, usually on these alerts is a 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which I think we can more than do that, to be honest. I think we can even get right back down to this price point down here of 23,200 roughly, because 23,200 happens to be um put this here. 23,200 happens to be where the stock market open price was, so 9:30 a.m. New York Stock Exchange opening price. But really, even more than that for me was that was the price point for this 10 a.m. candle where Powell started speaking. So on Friday, we had Powell speaking at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And that basically created this massive bullish candle that we saw right here. Okay, so yeah, basically price, had a huge injection of volume here, and it ran for about, man, this had to have been, let's see, 2,600 pips, 260 points in one 3-minute candle. If I even look at it on a 1-minute candle, in literally like 1 minute, from Powell speaking, it ran, yeah, 2,500 pips, so 250 points in 1 minute. So that was a very significant, um, jump in price, and that creates, obviously a lot of imbalance, or, this big fair value gap, which is kind of my favorite thing to see, because at the end of the day, the market's going to gravitate towards taking liquidity and or rebalancing price every single day, every single movement. The market is always going to be looking for those two objectives of either, taking sellers out of the market or buyers out of the market, depending on what type of direction we're pushing in. And then afterwards, or in the process of doing that also, is rebalancing price. And, when I teach this on Akashex, we go through diagrams, examples, but it's always good to obviously show you guys in real time how it's not just a pick and choose moment or like a convenient time where it happens. It happens all the time. It's just a matter of spotting what is the liquidity that it is currently seeking, or what is the rebalancing area that it's trying to go for next, etc. So, to kind of show you guys a little bit of what happened on Friday, prior to that injection of volume from Powell speaking at 10 a.m., we did have fair value gaps, for example, left behind in this area. And I have like an indicator that you guys can see. It kind of like auto highlights these little orange zones for me. I'm just kind of drawing these manually to extend it out so you can see. And for the people that study my strategy and kind of know what I look for, again, you can see two. I'm literally going to show you how it plays out so perfect in so many different ways here, right? So notice as well, you have a fair value gap right here, right? So you have this fair value gap right here, and price tapped right into that here. Then we came through it and rejected it again twice. So this was a very sensitive area on purpose because it's a fair value gap and that has reactions. Same thing here. You're not going to see it auto highlighted because it's already passed, but there was a fair value gap in here as well from, this drop in price that we had here at 9:30, and this was from Wednesday's price action. That was the 9:30 drop on Wednesday. And you can see 9:30 Wednesday, we tap into those fair value gaps. Price starts to reject off of that and push lower. We tap into this fair value gap. Price starts to reject and push out. You also have liquidity kind of tied into that because you can see we had this low here. Price goes and takes out that low. And right after tapping into an imbalance, or basically rebalancing price and taking out liquidity, which is manipulating, early buyers here, that's what starts creating these moves, right? So we can see liquidity get taken, price gets filled at this imbalance, and then we get a rejection away. And then this is where market timing and everything starts to play into the, strategy that I teach, where we have Asia range here. And we can see like post 9:30, price spikes into this fair value gap and starts to break above Asia. And those are the signals for us to get into buy opportunities. And then the news 10 a.m. candle is just the excuse for price to then go and make the movement that it wants to. So, with the strategy, you would have had to definitely, I guess you could say, take the risk of news going against our position. But for the most part, whether you use a 30-point stop or even a 50-point stop based out of Asia, this is a trade that ran for amazing profit. And this was not called out on Akashex. But it is, following the strategy. We ended up calling out a signal later, which is this sell that, we had towards the end of market closure. So regardless if you took a trade alert from me and made some money, or if you know my strategy and decided to go for buy opportunities post 9:30, we had a lot of opportunities to make money trading on Friday. So yeah, man, fair value gaps and liquidity, it's always going to be the same thing. And it's just a matter of training your eye to see it and kind of developing a bias and a narrative around that to start, finding consistent trades that have a purpose, like why the market is looking to do XYZ. And if we even zoom out to higher time frames like the 3 hour, the 4 hour, for example, why price started rejecting this area on a 3 hour chart, you can see we had another fair value gap here. Right? And it just so happens to be that's where price started tapping into. And to be very precise when it comes to the fair value gaps, what we really like to see is half of those, especially when it's a really wide gap on a higher time frame. Usually you want to see like half of that fair value gap get filled. So you can pull up like a Fibonacci, do like a 50% one, right? Where you can have like a 0, a 1, and a 0.5 to measure like half of a move, right? And you can extend that out and you can see like we're very, very close to that, 50% point right here of that specific fair value gap before we started getting those, rejections away. So, but all in all, again, it's just another scenario, more evidence to show you guys about, why concepts like fair value gaps are so important to be aware of and to learn how to incorporate it into your trading. Not everybody's going to trade NAS, not everybody's going to trade exactly how I do it, but I still think fair value gaps should be a part of everyone's repertoire because it's not a random coincidence, and there is way too much evidence that those zones hold a lot of weight when it comes to where the market will want to go to and or react from. And so with that same exact thought process that we saw from spiking into this one, filling in this one down here, rejecting off the higher time frame one here, like we've already seen imbalances or fair value gaps create narratives for these three different scenarios. Well, that's exactly why I have that as a target now for why I want this trade to get down to these levels. Right? We have a massive one from the 1 minute time frame that was left behind because of that news from Powell. So yeah, the market might have spiked up thousands of pips, but it was all based off of a news event. And so a lot of times whatever goes fast doesn't last. So long term, I do think that we can actually get right back down to 23,200 exactly where that injection of volume, originated from. That 10 a.m. candle's origin point was 23,200. I think we will actually get back down to that exact price. And then from there, kind of see like what price wants to do. So yeah, I still have a selling market bias for now. Um, again, we'll see how the first hours of Sunday kind of start to open up. And we're going to start developing the Asian range in the next 45 minutes. So from 7 p.m. Eastern all the way to about 1 a.m., we're going to have that Asian range form. And then once that Asian range forms, something like this, and I'll actually hide this on the minutes time frame because it's a little too much going on here. Yeah, if we can get our Asian range from 7 to 1 a.m. form something like, let's say something like this, more or less. All right. What I'll want to see is price basically, move around into that Asian range and then maybe spike higher, reject, and then ultimately come lower. That would be the ideal scenario for me to really, find the best type of trade possible is looking for some type of sell positions if we try to fake above an Asia high point, something like this. And then again, the whole idea is to take it down to at minimum where we have the fair value gap stuff going on, which would still be a crazy risk to reward. And then if we can even have some of our position run all the way down here, you have huge risk to reward ratio potential to start the week. Okay, so again, I invite the price to continue higher as much as it wants to go. Um, and I know we had, positions from Friday here. I don't like holding trades over the weekend, quite honestly. So I ended up taking my profits around 2R, closed it out for the day. I know some people may still be holding those sells. I just, at this point, if I'm not in a position personally, I actually would want to invite price to get even further away from this fair value gap, all that it wants to, because I know eventually this is way too strong of a like this, there's too much influence that that's gonna have on what price is gonna do. So the farther away we get away from it, prior to our actual trading session or window that I like to be in, which is New York session, then when New York session rolls around, I'm just gonna have even further risk to reward target. I'm just gonna get more RR multiples from getting to the same area. Like if Asian range, hypothetically, um, was something like down here, right? Then when we start to break, below the low, for example, for like a signal to sell, right? Based off the strategy, still a great trade, but the risk to reward ratios or the risk to reward probably like the targets that we can get to from here are really good, don't get me wrong, but if I can get that Asian range to form higher and even get up here, then you could just see how obviously getting in higher up here versus down here, we still have the same targets in mind, which means we're just gonna get a much bigger trade, you know. So we'll see. I mean, you can't make the market do what you want it to do. You just simply have a plan and then you wait for the market to line up with what you have as an idea. And if it does, you pull the trigger and let it do what it does. So, but yeah, all in all, you can bank on it. I don't tell you guarantees, right? Because in trading, there are no guarantees, of course. But the probabilities of us getting into this gap down here and running straight through at minimum to where it starts, which was like 23,390, right? At minimum, just getting to where it starts is something you can pretty much bank on, and then getting, halfway into that gap, all the way down to the beginning of that gap, these are still things I think are very likely to happen, but for sure, like at least getting to 23,390 is like money in the bank. So yeah, I mean, pretty simple. Whenever I have like a certain fair value gap or something that, especially that comes from news, and it's just so massive and it's so obvious, it's kind of like the easiest trades, because you just have such a conviction about where price is gonna want to go based off of that, there's not a lot of hesitation. Sometimes the market doesn't really leave any like obvious fair value gaps or any obvious liquidity behind or anything like that. And so, it can be a little bit like foggy or hazy to see what the market is really gunning for next. But when you have news, especially, the aftermath sometimes creates scenarios where like it's pretty obvious where it's gonna have to go next. And for me, that's just one of those scenarios now with price wanting to drop back down. Because then once we fill this gap and we start tapping back into these areas, then I gotta really reevaluate how price behaves around there, because from there, we'll either, see that as like this is the beginning of a big reversal. We have that expansion, a pullback, and then we continue, right? Or basically news spiked up to take out all these people that were selling earlier throughout last week. And then eventually we end up continuing to go further and we actually look at this as liquidity to be taken later. And then we keep going down. So that could be the scenario, like, where we just faked high for news and then we ended up dropping off the next week, for this week. So that's why I say, like, at least for now, I'm gonna see this area more or less around where we're at and where we were calling sells from last week to be like the high point of price until we get to here. And then from there, we'll see if this would just ends up being a pullback that continues higher, or if this actually ends up being a sniper entry where we basically took liquidity from all these points and that led to like a huge continued sell-off below 23,000, for example. So yeah, that's where we'll kind of see ourselves to start the week. As far as news goes, what's it called? Where is the button? Here we go. We don't really have any high impact stuff until Thursday for unemployment claims. So it doesn't mean that we won't have any price movement at all. Of course, I expect price movement, early in the week. But as far as high impact news, we don't have anything until Thursday, and then something on Friday. So, shouldn't be anything. We shouldn't get caught by surprise with anything, is what I would say. All right, let me check the chat here real quick. We got Lisa. What's up, Lisa? Andrew. So would you go to the lowest time from, I guess you mean time frame. Would you go to the lowest time frame to really see the price action and where the FVG is in detail start to finish? I mean, look, the fair value gaps and all that stuff, like it's not about being on one specific time frame only. Like you have to kind of what's the word called? Eh, you have to like explore a little bit. You need to kind of go and filter out, I wouldn't even drop to 1 minute almost ever for that type of stuff unless we're like looking at executing like very precise entries or something like that. But for the most part, like, a 4 hour, 3 hour, two, like all the hourly based time frames, like 4, 3, 2, 1 is what I would consider to be like the higher time frame ones that I'm more paying attention to. Because like daily and above, that's definitely not what I'm trying to look at unless I'm really looking at higher time frame narrative or just something that like I'm looking at it as like from a swing perspective. If we're like really high in price or really low in price, I don't know. Like you don't have to really use the daily like that all the time because I mean I day trade, so anything like 4 hour and below is my main operating time frames. So again, 4 hour, 3 hour, 2 hour, like it's not about one being better than the other. It's just which ones have the gaps. Because like you can see on the 3 hour, a very obvious clean one right here. And then on the 2 hour, it's not so clear. See what I'm saying? Like on the 2 hour, you had like a smaller one here and some little ones here. But like the 2 hour, you don't really see anything as clear as you do on like a 3 hour. And that just happens to be this specific time and place right now on this chart. There's other times where a 2 hour time frame might have a really clean fair value gap, and you don't see that on the 3 hour, you know? So you gotta go through the different ones to find what you're looking for. And then take it from there. Now, when you get to like the 15 and the 5, once I'm on the 15 and the 5 minute, that's because I'm already, looking at entering a trade or I'm already in a trade and I'm, managing the position to see like, okay, where it precisely, like now that we're executing a position, like where precisely is price gonna maybe want to go, or where can we look to like, clip our trade if it starts to reverse on us, it just depends. But always just look at the higher time frame stuff to get like a general big picture or general direction of where price is looking to get to. And then once you have that in your mind, then you start entering your positions based off of, smaller time frame stuff, since that's the type of trading that I do, which is intraday trading. And my strategy is, very based on that as well. Like, once we start looking at how price starts to react around Asia, I'm not going to be looking at a higher time frame chart. I'm going to be looking at a 5 minute, 15 minute because I need to see like the precision of getting in, around those points. So yeah, always look at the higher time frame stuff for like targets and where price would want to get to. And then you go to the smaller ones to like execute and manage a position is what I would say. At least that's what I do. Cool. All right, let's see. I think we have some other questions in the chat here too. What do you call a trade? Yeah, and look, I for me about the whole calling a trade thing, like maybe after Asia we call like a separate opportunity or something, but in general, anybody that was like in the Friday position, I know some people probably held it. Um, so it just depends. Like it depends if people are holding already that position or not. But in general, like I wouldn't want to pull the trigger on a trade now until Asia forms. Because sometimes, like, we might be like, oh, this is such a clear target. This is so obvious price is going to go here. And, like I can have that idea, but then price, hits Asia where it slows down or it starts to do some funky stuff. And it may want to actually like reach higher a little bit, for example, during Asia. And so if I execute another position now, I could potentially see myself sit in drawdown and be in like a really slow market instead of just waiting for all that to wash out. And then afterwards, once it's done, then I look for like, my criteria for my strategy and then the move happens. So it just depends. Like the only reason why somebody would not want to do this is because they're scared that right now it's just gonna go and tank. And it could. I mean, it definitely could. I mean, I'm not gonna be mad because I already did take some profit here before the market closed. And it's obviously not something I want to happen. But in general, like, I'd just much rather try to do something that I can consistently do over and over, which is like sticking to the plan, let Asia form and then play off of that and see what's up. But yeah, I don't trade any other assets, no. Where are your most recent sessions from Akashics? The most recent ones are from June. Okay, so there was a good period of time on Akashics where like we're not streaming on the platform. I was using Zoom. So on the Telegram chat, the official community group chat one. So that's the one that you have to message the Akashics bot on Telegram. And that's when they had to measure the I'm sorry, I was reading something. You have to message the Akashics bot on Telegram, and it's gonna ask you for your Akashics member ID number, and then it'll send you the link to this chat. And on this chat, it's gonna have like all the different educators, and different tabs. And then from there, on mine, you'll see like if you click on it, you can go through like the media, and you scroll back. I don't know if it's under, yeah, you'll see like the Zoom sessions here. So this is like August 6th. Yeah, I mean, for a while, they're all on here. Um, yeah, this is 7/15, July 15th. So you're gonna see all the sessions and stuff for a while that are posted in here. This is June 30th, you see? So like all the sessions are in this Telegram chat under my section. You just gotta like either scroll up a lot or just click there and look at the media and just go back and see all those like hourly Zooms or whatever that are there. They're usually between like an hour, hour and a half. So that's where like a lot of the recorded stuff was from like June to now because we just had like that era of like Akasha transitioning to V2 and then the streaming stuff wasn't working as cleanly as it is like now. But I'm getting more back into streaming on the actual platform now. The only thing is I have to communicate again about like posting the actual replays because I used to be able to stream on Akashex and then as soon as it ends, it would shoot me like a link of like the replay and I just literally like go on my admin thing and upload it. But now like I don't get a link after the call's over for me to post it. I think somebody has it obviously on the back end, but they'd have to either do it for me or give me access to see that page for me to upload it. So, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I am planning to. not use Zoom anymore again and just stick to only using the Akashic stream. So the only thing I need to do is just make sure I have a system for me to get that link and post it as a replay right after it's done. So that's what it is. Thursdays. Yeah, because Thursday was on Akashics. And the thing is, like I said, it's not a Zoom. So because it's not a Zoom, I don't have the link from Akashics to post it into my replays. So I gotta talk to these people that handle that stuff for the educators in Akashics to see, how I can get that link and post it or whatever. So yeah. But as far as like the session goes, from Thursday's price action was what? This is Friday and this is Thursday. I think Thursday as well. I was like, what was I doing that day? Oh yeah, that's the one that I had to like move my session later in the day, and I was telling you guys on the chat about looking at the NAS cells that day. So yeah, always just make sure whether it's through a session or whatever, like this chat is very important. The Koshik's Telegram one, this is where I really communicate with you guys, like, active alerts, ideas we're looking at, and whatnot. So yeah, that was Thursday though. So on the session, I think I just kind of recapped a little bit of what happened from um, those NAS cells that were present uh like pre 9:30. Appreciate you, Andrew. Of course, bro. All right. So yeah, guys, for the most part, I think it's pretty crystal clear, what it is that I'm focused on. Just kind of again continuing the thought process from Friday. We're just back open now. So in general, whether it starts to happen now or if, Asia decides to kind of like sit around for a bit, all in all, any type of upward movement, I'm not interested in buying at all. I'd rather, even if price for whatever reason forms like Asia and then starts to like really break above and make a move higher and break above all these highs, yeah, there could be based off the strategy like some type of buy signals, but in general, I'm so like sold on the rebalancing of this move that I'd just rather have price reveal. Like I have to let price give me the confirmations that align with my bias, and I'm not gonna change that bias of filling this in like at all. I don't know like what scenario could happen that would make me want to change my mind, but this is something I'm very sold on. And I don't usually hold very strong convictions about price action, just to avoid, getting stuck in like a trap of waiting for something that never happens. But there's just certain scenarios that are just too obvious for me to ignore. So again, even if something like this were to happen, I would still eventually, like for all I know, Asia could set up like this, and then during London it just runs higher, and then like at 9:30, it like finally starts melting off at 9:30, and then it does all this. And so I'd much rather look for like a Asia reversal sell, uh, like post 9:30, something like this to take us down to here, So this is another way that price could also do this. And that just comes down to like, seeing a lot of scenarios of what Nas has done before. Because again, we can have a conviction of where price wants to go, but the way that price actually forms in the process of getting there is sometimes a very interesting scenario or a surprise or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, obviously, oh, you have this idea to get down here. Well, let's just see it get down there already. And it could, like, we can literally see a crazy candle now just take us straight here, like right now. Or price can literally look like it's trying to drop and then just doesn't. And then we sit around forever and then we actually end up spiking way higher during London. And then after 9:30, price has a tanking moment where it just starts to fall off, and then we start getting our signals, you know? So it just depends. Like I can't try to perfectly know exactly how the market's gonna do what I'm looking for it to do, but we know that the general idea of where we want it to go, and so I just need to use one of my trading models that kind of gives me the green light to pull the trigger on a sell at the right time, where we take advantage of like when volume is expected to come in due to like New York Stock Exchange open or high impact news or something like that. And then we have again the targets in mind. Something that kind of helps obviously to start seeing all the different ways that my strategy or can play out in the market is literally like documenting what happens every day. Like I was telling people this the other day, this is the log from August, and obviously you can have like your own log of your own trades, like executions that you did, whether you got the trade wrong, right, what was the risk to reward on it, all that stuff, right? Like it's your trading journal. But as far as like also documenting my strategy, as far as like what was on the table, because for me, it's not just also about my own performance, it's about like I'm developing a system and a way for people to like find consistency trading NAS during New York. And so I want to be able to like have a log, that's independent from how I saw price or what I did right or wrong that day, just kind of purely showing what the strategy made available for somebody, And so I log all those days, like all of August here is logged with notes, like August 1st was NFP and there was really nice opportunities for my strategy to sell, but it came during London. So during New York, there wasn't really any opportunity to take at all and during NFP with my specific strategy unless you traded London, you know. August 4th, same thing. This was Monday. Price broke out during London, and then 9:30 continued the move, but there's no trade post 9:30 based off the strategy that day. So again, back-to-back days, NFP Friday and then Monday the 4th had like London session traders had the upper hand on the day. And this is how I start to also say things like, when I get on my sessions and I'm like, oh, guys, like if there's any day where London is going to create nice moves, it's usually Monday, like Sunday heading into Monday, because the market's been closed for many days, you know? So like today we're rolling around, it's Sunday, right? Heading into Monday. This bias of us getting into here could very well start to play out during London because, I just have a lot of recorded observance of like, hey, London moves tend to happen pretty nicely Sunday heading into Monday just because the market's been closed for many days. So those are little details of like how you get very intimately involved with, a strategy or an asset class, and that's how you start to master it. You got to see a lot of different scenarios. And so yeah, I encourage everybody that is serious about any strategy. It doesn't necessarily have to be mine, but anything that you trade, you want to document like literally days, weeks, months of all these different scenarios so you can start to build either the confidence to execute, um, pattern recognition, just kind of like programming yourself to like see what the good setups look like and when you should be pulling the trigger, and just reinforcing like, hey, I tend to do good on XYZ days, or after or trading this specific session, or hey, when these trades run, this is how long they usually run for. Like maybe I'm always scared to hold my positions, but the evidence is that when I'm in a winning trade, like this thing usually can run for 4-1, 6-1, whatever, and then you don't have to be scared to like hold past the 2-1. You know what I'm saying? But you need to have all these things shown so you can prove to yourself, like, oh, okay, this thing has some merit. We can trust this strategy or whatever the case is. So yeah, just you got to do the work, man. You got to do that type of work. Uh, what do you use to log your information? Well, for like a trading journal, I really like TradeZella personally. But like for these Liberty, like these logs, I just did it on my iPhone notes thing or whatever. But again, I'm not really looking at my P&L or any of that when I look at this. This is just showing my strategy like for the whole month to show like all the different scenarios that happened, like how many reversal models took place, how many breakout models took place, what was the average risk to reward on these days, blah blah blah, But TradeZella is a really good one where you can hook up your trading account and actually see like the winning days, losing days, your profits, your losses, your win rate, your average risk to reward ratio. You can put before and after pictures of your chart, like literally everything. I think TradeZella is an amazing tool for sure. But yeah, guys, pretty simple. For today, I think we kind of should be all on the same page about what we're looking for NAS. So I will see you guys on the sessions this week if you are in Akashex. We have the Spanish session tomorrow for all of my gente Latina that speak Spanish. I do those on Mondays. And then we do the English sessions Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, so we'll circle back to this idea. But for all my Sunday Market Outlook people that maybe aren't in Akashex or whatever, whether it's today, like tonight or tomorrow, I would just follow up with this trade. I'm pretty sure you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, legit. So I'm very convinced that we will see this type of trade play out. All right. So with that said, guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your night. I will see you guys in the chats and all that if you guys are in Akashex. And yeah, excited, man. We got Rome convention in the next like week and change. So I already got my flights booked, everything ready to get out to Italy in the next couple weeks for our convention out there. So that should be a movie for sure. But yeah, guys, much love. Appreciate you guys for tapping in as always. And I will see you guys on the next Sunday Market Outlook. All right. Much love. Let's get it.